right. Well, we got some more folks. Looks like they're joining in, but we want to be respectful of everyone's time and get started. So first off, my name is Matt Urban. I am the Director of Marketing and Admissions here at New Apprenticeship. As far as what to expect from this info session, if you haven't been before, I really want to primarily accomplish a high level of what the program is. I won't go into detail initially on the different occupations and different apprenticeship paths we have, more so just the kind of the basic structure that each follow. And then what I want to do is really open this up for specific questions that you all have that I can address and provide some information to. I think that's where hopefully the most value is going to come from. So as far as logistics here, you may notice that in the options panel from your Zoom screen, there are a few different things, right? There should be a chat as well as a Q&A button. So if you could do me a favor, and if it is a question, if you could actually utilize the Q&A feature, that'll help us keep it a little bit more organized, make sure that some of the questions are, all your questions are answered. They don't get lost anywhere in the sort of shuffle of chat. So that I think is, I think that's everything logistically. I also have from New, Taryn Cunningham, who's joined us as well. And so as I'm going through, I think she's going to be able to try to answer some of those questions if they're happening during the presentation. And then, of course, after that, we will make sure that everything else is answered. So I'm going to try to get through this first. I have got a handful of slides here. I'm going to try to get through it in 10 minutes or so, and then we'll have the rest of the time for questions. Okay, great. Well, again, my name is Matt Urban, New Apprenticeship here, and I like to start off these info sessions with kind of a quick overview. And I think what we do is important and different. Apprenticeships, especially for tech, is not very common, but I think why we do it is really the most important part, and the thing I think that is one of the differentiators from what we provide. And that's, you guys likely know this already, that our tech hiring system doesn't work. It is not equitable. It is based on a sort of archaic notion that your education only is the thing that means that you are a good candidate or not. And it overlooks a whole lot of talented people who just need an opportunity to get some experience to be able to start their roles. The employers, you probably have read online, employers are saying that there's no skill, there's this huge skill gap, right? We have all these roles and no one to fill them. And there's so many people who are saying, I have these skills, right? I have these great certifications, or I've done these projects and things, just give me a chance and I can succeed. And that's where we come in. We sort of act as like really what we think a bridge. So this is kind of an illustration of what a pathway would be, with New Apprenticeship being that bridge, right? And so what we do as a U.S. Department of Labor registered apprenticeship program is essentially we combine the experience with working on the job by finding innovative partner companies that say, you know what, we think that that hiring isn't working for us either, and we want to partner with New Apprenticeship and kind of design an integrated working and learning, which is apprenticeship. Design this program so that people can come in, they can start to earn the baseline, learn the baseline skills that are necessary to start a job on day one, which we accomplish through our boot camp. But then as they get the job, they interview for a full-time apprenticeship role. And that 12 months where you're going through this apprenticeship program, that's where the majority of the learning goes. And so the key point is that our partners we're having this conversation that, hey, you don't need to have someone who's got 4 years of experience in doing these things, right? Like let's work backwards from the core things that you need, establish them through a boot camp training program, and then get people in to get that experience and start to earn a salary, but also learn while they're doing it. So that's kind of the model in what we do, what we facilitate here. So the program qualifications, and I know there was a question about this earlier. One of the things I will call out that the majority of the apprenticeship roles that we have, they do not accept bachelor's degrees. So if you've already earned a bachelor's degree, most likely you would not be eligible. There are some exceptions, and so if you're curious, you can apply, and then what we'll try to do is route you to any open opportunities, but more than likely you're not going to be eligible if you have a bachelor's degree. That includes, unfortunately, if it was a degree in maybe fine arts 10 years ago, right, something like that, just having a bachelor's degree for some of our partners is an indicator of basically a higher job level than what they offer at the apprenticeship. And so that's where we run into some of the issues. But if you do not have that, really, we're just looking for the high school diploma or an equivalent, some sort of demonstrated interest, and that can be through a whole lot of different things that you can demonstrate that interest. And then we will either ask, depending on the program, if there are sort of a relevant certification or some foundational knowledge. So that can be, for a lot of our programs, that's through either Python, HTML, CSS. One of the things that I see a question around associate degrees. So associate degrees are perfectly fine, right? It's really anywhere from the high school equivalent up until just before a bachelor's degree. Anything in there is good. So the other thing that I really want to call out, of course, is that because this is an apprenticeship and it is full-time jobs, that you do need to have the eligibility to work in the US, and most partners are not sponsoring any visas. So having that full work authorization is mostly required here. One more thing I want to just talk about these sort of foundational skills. If you don't have them, but you're still really interested, what we try to do is design a way within our admissions process to be able to acquire those. And so we would send you an email that says, hey, you might not have what you need to move forward in this process. However, here's a project that you can do to demonstrate these skills. Here's some resources to be able to learn them, and then demonstrate it to move on to the next portion. So that's important to us, that we try to remove any barriers from participating in the program. So typical timeline looks something like this. I mentioned that the pre-employment boot camp can be from between 8 to 12 weeks, depending on the program. At that point, those who have completed interview for the full-time apprenticeship job, we do not promise the job, unfortunately. That's something that you would demonstrate in the interview. So those that are accepted then we receive full-time employment, move on to the 12-month apprenticeship, and that is working the full-time job, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, and then doing some additional learning outside of those hours through the apprenticeship program. The other thing that I want to just call out is that when you're hired on as an apprentice, even though the formal apprenticeship program is 12 months while working full-time, the employment that you have is not as a contractor. It's a full-time W-2 employee that you can work there for hopefully a very long time and stay at your organization and continue to move up and grow. So expectations, the thing that I just like to set the expectation is that it is pretty intense. This learning, if you've been in an intense learning environment before, maybe a boot camp or a really challenging class, or it could have just been anything in which you had to really dedicate to quick learning, then you should be good. But I would come in with those expectations, in that even though the boot camp itself is technically part-time, it requires you to be kind of on top of things, attend sessions, of course, but then also working on other projects, working towards certifications, being active in group discussions, things like that. So the journey itself, again, I mentioned the pre-employment training, the interview. Within the apprenticeship, there's a couple things to call out. One is the coaching aspect that we provide. I think it's a little bit, it's actually really unique to a lot of apprenticeship programs, at least the depth in which that we this coaching would provide. And so we have we call performance coaches who are working with you on a weekly basis to work through any issues or challenges that you might have while on the job. And then we also have leadership, what we call leadership coaches, where you'd be working with your cohort and developing those leadership skills, the strategic communications, or managing up, a whole variety of leadership skills. So that, in addition to mentors, we bring in through the program, and the integration of your employer, right? And I think that's the thing that makes this a true apprenticeship, is that this learning, this coaching, all the growth is co-designed by your employer, which is what makes it different than just working full-time and going to, say, night classes, because this is really just integrated to what your employer believes you should know in order to advance within the organization. So one last thing, in addition to the industry certifications that you get throughout the program, based on what apprenticeship it is, you also would receive a Department of Labor certification as an apprentice. Continued employment, and then this continuing education. It's something that's really important. Obviously, if you're here and listening to this, it's important to you, this continuing education. And so we do have an agreement with a Southern New Hampshire University, if you guys are familiar, where, as part of the apprenticeship program, it can vary by the program, but you through some of the certifications you earn, some of the experience, you could transfer or essentially earn up to 27 credit hours towards a completion of a bachelor's degree. So more information around that, and we can get into that by program a little bit later, but it is something we're trying to bake into all the apprenticeships. One thing I didn't mention at the start, I should have, but there's no cost to you, to our apprentices going through the program. There's no cost. The one thing, though, that I would say on that one, the sort of asterisk, is that we do ask, if you're deemed to be eligible for grant funding, that you guys help us be able to get that, because that lowers the costs that we have, and it enables us to be able to offer this program to you and to people in the future at no cost to the individuals. And so we do ask for your sort of participation in providing documentation and things like that in order to get grants. So the bootcamp training program, again, 8 to 12 weeks, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, typically, from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. These are all done remotely via Zoom like this, where you'll be with your cohort and learning, right? And this is it's hosted by an instructor or a program manager, but it's discussion based. There's pre-work that needs to be done to make sure you get the most out of it. But it is required that you do attend these, because that's where a lot of the learning happens, a lot of that sort of immersive learning happens. And then the other time requirement per week, that's in completing the, as mentioned, the projects or studying towards certifications, other work that'd be necessary to be completed within that week, but on your own hours. Apprenticeship itself is really similar. The required hours scales back a little bit, from 15 to 20 maybe down to 10 to 15 a week, because this is done outside of your full-time job. So this would be typically Tuesdays and Thursday evenings, where you'd be joining again remotely through your session with your cohort, continuing to earn certifications, develop leadership skills, all those other things that I mentioned before. I touched on the coaching already, so in the interest of getting to questions, I won't go through too much of this, but I will say for those, if you haven't looked up, kind of looked more into the coaching that we offer, or just even understand the value of coaching in itself, I would definitely encourage you to just to kind of see what's out there, because very few people initially realize the power of the coaching, and then at the end of the program, the end of the 12-month apprenticeship, it is typically the thing that everyone points to as the biggest sort of impact on their professional careers. So next steps, there's an application online. As mentioned, if there's a admissions project that you need to do, we'll send you an email for that one. You schedule an interview to connect with some of our team, or 30 minutes, and then we would let you know about an upcoming cohort start date. Well, that's it. I appreciate you guys sticking with me. It was a little bit longer than I'd hoped for, but I hope that was informative. I'm going to hop over to the questions. I think Taryn's been answering those questions, but I can now start to take them. Taryn, if you want, I can jump in and start to take with this first question, or the question that I see in here. Are there any commitment requirements if I get hired by another company before or at the end of the boot camp or apprenticeship? Is there a penalty? So there is not. We do our best to try to identify people that are committed to the training and to the apprenticeship program. I mean, it is it's an investment from everyone's point of view, from ours, from yours, from the employers, and so we do try to find that commitment, but there's not any sort of penalty. And certainly we know that especially nowadays, life is rather unpredictable and things come up, so you won't be billed anything, back billed anything if you're not able to continue for some reason. A question around the how rigorous is the training? It's difficult to answer. I think as mentioned, like, it is pretty intense. It's definitely not impossible, right? We see people get through and be successful in this, but if it's not something, if you don't have the sort of physical time or even like mental space to be able to dedicate it to it, it can be really challenging. A great question around the availability, which I definitely want to answer. We are trying to make this available to as many places in the US as possible. But what we are kind of beholden to is where our employer partners say that they need people working. So there was another question around the remote. Is it remote or in person? So while all the training that we provide is remote, the jobs, the majority of them are going back to be in person. So that's when, if you see in our application, we ask, what location or locations are you able to work at for if you're hired for the role. And so that's where you'll see that, what is on there today, the locations that are available today may not be the same, next week. And we work closely with our employers to forecast where they are going to need additional people to come in, what locations and things like that. But so we really do our best, and we try to make sure that everyone who starts has the opportunity for that role. So if some of you are, if you're looking on the site and it's like, okay, great, this location was available, and then it turns out, the next day or the next week, like I said, that it's not. It's that we are we're adjusting as we hear from our employer partners where they need people. So that being said, if there was a location that you were really set on, you go through you start our admissions process and make it through, or make it part of the way through. What we started doing is waitlisting. So saying, okay, if Houston, for example, right, you'll be the first person, you'll be on our list to know as soon as we have additional roles available in Houston. So a couple questions here. Do you get passwords? You get paid for the Zoom meetings? You do not. You get paid for when you start the apprenticeship as your full-time job, but this is not paid, the training that you're doing. There's also another question here. There is not any relocation assistance. Yeah, definitely keep that in mind if you're as you're applying and putting in the locations that you're available to. A question about vaccination. So these policies are pretty dynamic. They can change by employer. I will say that one of I think the latest guidance from one of our larger employers was that you do not need to be vaccinated. However, if you are not, I believe there's weekly testing requirements. But I do want to caution everyone to say that that is as of the last time I heard it, which is a few weeks ago. And because things are changing so quickly, that likely will not be the policy in a few months if you were to join and then be available after the boot camp. Question about interviews. So we have been very fortunate to have a massive spike in interest in our program lately, and especially the beginning of this year. We are doing everything we can to be able to open up new times for interviews. We're really trying to add capacity, add options, and so that being said, the best that I could say for if you have an interview scheduled and you're looking for an earlier time, is that just to kind of keep checking on our booking link. So that's tied to multiple calendars, and so as people are canceling, or as we're trying to open up additional spots, that would be the best. That'd be the best way. I see a question around for Canadian residents. So at this point, we don't have any locations within Canada, so it would the same having U.S. work authorization would apply for Canada as well. Great question around our digital marketing program. And it actually looks like it's been answered. So thank you, Taryn, for getting that so quickly. Yeah, we have another question around the AWS program. So that one is actually, as of last week, we are waiting to confirm additional role availability. So where we have it right now is hopefully if you've already started that process, we've emailed and reached out, and depending on what you get provided you an option potentially of, depending on how far you were, if there's another apprenticeship opportunity that you fit for, provided you that option to try to start that program. Or you always have the opportunity, again, as I mentioned, to wait list, to where as soon as that comes in, you'll be the first to know, so you have the opportunity to start that program. A question around the cohort for IT Service Now. the website has been updated as of, I believe, yesterday, as far as the dates through the rest of the summer. I believe the boot camps we have now scheduled go through July. I think that's is the latest that we have scheduled. So for IT Service Now, I want to say May 2nd, June 6th, and July 11th are the next 3 dates. But I would have to check to see the website just to confirm there. Okay. We also just added another panelist here, Christian, who is our senior program manager across all of our occupations. So Christian, sorry, I'm sure you were on here earlier and I did not see you added in here, but please, if you want to jump in, I'm sure everyone here is sick of hearing me talk. So I'd love to have you jump in, provide any additional context or answers on these. So I'm just kind of taking them through the Q&A.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, I was watching and listening, so you're doing a very good job answering these questions, both you and Tyrion, but just want to welcome everybody. I'm looking forward to meeting you all. Yeah, I will jump in with any questions, but you've been answering them all great so far. Just want to let you know I was here to help answer if need be.
Okay, great. Well, how about this one, Christian? I'm going to throw a question to you right away. Do we get study materials during the boot camp? Will they be available online?
Yes, absolutely. This is a great question. So all of our learning material are located on Canvas. This is the learning platform that we use, Canvas. So you will have access to all the courses that you will be taking during the boot camp. So for ITSN, that includes IDLE, ServiceNow, and Intro to Scripting. And in each course, there are modules that you will have pre-session work where you will be able to do on your own time, do some work before you get into your instructor-led session. And then when you get in your instructor-led session, you're going over material, then you have homework and quizzes and assignments to do as well. So everything is on the Canvas platform available to you. You guys will have access to everything over the course of 9 weeks. So as Matt mentioned, I heard him say, this is like a very fast pace, boot camp. There's a lot of self-directing. There's time that goes into this, about 15 hours a week, which is almost like a part-time job. So there's a lot of self-directing and studying that you need to do on your own. So this is why we give you guys access to the material that you will need. We have ServiceNow on-demand courses that we would give you access for, and then you would use that course to obtain a voucher for CSA certification. So all the material and the course work that goes with this will be provided to you via Canvas.
Awesome. Thank you, Christian. I'm going to throw another question to you here that we got in the chat. So someone says they have been to boot camps before, but how would you compare the quality of instructors for our boot camps?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm not sure about all other boot camps, but I can certainly speak to the instructors at our boot camp. In our program, I work very closely with all the instructors in the program. Each instructor is certified in an area that they are instructing in. Not only are they certified, but then they're also professionally developed to help learners and support learners in applying the course material and information that they're going over in a real world situation. So that's one of the main topics that we talk about in our weekly instructor sessions, is how do we help these learners, really apply this in a real life situation on the job, and really get a foundational understanding of what IDLE is, or what ServiceNow is, or how do I use this? And for instance, for ServiceNow, one thing I didn't know about ServiceNow is that Best Buy and Target and Bank of America use this as an app. So if you're using any of these apps, you're essentially using the interface of a ServiceNow app, right? So they go into details of what that looks like for you and just really give you the fundamentals of all of these courses, because that's what the bootcamp is, meant to give you fundamental skills and knowledge that will help you prepare for an interview, to make it into the apprenticeship, to continue to learn and grow.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Christian. I have another question, a follow-up question, just on the the spacing between when we launch cohorts. So that one depends a little bit on the occupation. I can say that for IT and data, we've been about a 4 week, 4 weeks, sometimes 5 weeks in between launches, depending if there's a holiday in there. For our AWS, we had, I think there was about an 8 week in between our last two launches. And then for digital marketing, we tend to be around that 8 week time as well. I think we're going to be a little bit longer than that, I think, with the 4th of July holiday for our next program. But I would say, really 1 to 3 months is our kind of general guidance. So hopefully that helps. We have another question around paying for certifications. You don't need to, right? Those are all included. And so we had an earlier question of, hey, am I paid to attend these sessions? That answer is no, but the good news is there's not anything out of pocket. So you're getting, we think, a really amazing value, not only in just the cost of the certifications, but as Christian mentioned, the quality of the instruction. I mean, things that you would be paying a lot for if you were to go elsewhere. An existing boot camp, a different boot camp potentially, or some universities, training programs, things like that.
Mm-hmm. And Matt, can I just add a clarifying statement to that as
Please.
well? So the certifications come at no cost to you on your first try. Right. So we provide, like for CSA, once you finish the ServiceNow course, you get a voucher that's like valued at about $300+ or more. And that's given to you just by completing the course 100%. But then if you do not pass the exam or the certification, there are retakes and there's fees associated with the retakes that you will be responsible for. So all of the initial costs of the certifications are on new apprenticeship, but then if there's any retakes or anything that need to happen like that, that is a responsibility of the learner and or apprentice.
Great clarification, Christian. They have a follow-up here. It looks like the retake fees. I imagine they vary based on the certification, but maybe there's some general guidance that you could provide.
Yes, so the retake fees, yes, definitely vary depending on the certification. I can tell you for sure, CSA, we've nailed this one down. The voucher obviously comes with completing the course. If you need to take it, you get 4 attempts for the CSA. The first one is a voucher, which is free. The second one is $100, but new apprenticeship will pay half of that. So you would pay $50 for that. And then the third and fourth attempt is $100 responsible to the apprentice. And then when we talk about EIDL, EIDL as the first certification is free, but if you do not pass, there's a total cost to retake the EIDL exam. And we've just changed providers for EIDL. So I think it's about a $400 cost for the EIDL certification for that fee. But it all varies per certification that you are taking.
Amazing information, Christian. The depth of that I would not have been able to get to. So I'm so happy that you're here.
How many exams? I think I just saw that question pop up. So
Yep.
so with the ITSN program, there's a couple of different certifications that you will be able to obtain, which is the CSA, EIDL, and then you have Google IT support, which is 1 through 5. And then you have CIS, which is an extension of the CSA exam. So there's a total of like 4 certifications that you can earn and take an exam for. But then you also will have like different electives where there's like micro certifications that are no cost at all. But you have 4 major exams in the EIDL program. And then AWS, there's like AWS Cloud certification. And then with the data program, there's the Tableau certification associated with that.
Okay. These are really great questions, everyone. It looks like we're slowing down a little bit, which is good. Hopefully we've been able to get some good information out there. Okay, so we have another question to clarify. Performance in the boot camp determines if we make it into the apprenticeship program. So great follow-up question. So the performance, and Christian, I would love your insight on this as well. I mean, my answer would be that performance in the boot camp might be sort of an indicator of success, but ultimately this is going to be the decision of our partner companies on whether to offer you the job. So just like it would be interviewing for another role. I mean, I think one of the difference, as I see it, is that if you're going through, typically if you're interviewing for a tech job, it's going to be multiple rounds and all these hoops to jump through. For us, what's really cool is that because you've completed the boot camp, we can provide that information to the employer partners and accelerate the process of it. And some, it could just be a single interview. Most actually, it's just a single interview before you are given that hiring decision. And then if you are offered the full-time job, you accept as apprentice. If you're not, though, Christian, maybe you can elaborate a little bit on some of the things that we have for if you're not, if you aren't at first given if you're offered the position.
Yeah, no, I think you touched on this very well. So the boot camp is designed to prepare you for an interview with the company, right? That's the purpose of the boot camp, is to get you ready with the fundamental skills, knowledge, and preparation that you need to interview with, let's take, for instance, Infosys. That includes learning of the 3 subjects: IDLE, ServiceNow, intro to scripting. So how you move through the boot camp, yes, is a part of your selection into the program, because how well you do in the program will determine what knowledge and how prepared you are for the interview, right? So, but the ultimate decision on how you move from boot camp to apprenticeship, or how you're selected for the job, is determined by your interview. So the interview is a 30-minute interview via Zoom or Teams meeting, and it is a technical interview. They will ask you a round of technical questions based on the fundamental skills that you've learned throughout the boot camp. So your performance in the boot camp, if you're here to understand and gain the knowledge and fundamental skills that you need that will prepare you for the interview and help you become selected, that's how you can gear your time and energy towards wanting to make it into the apprenticeship. It's not automatically, I got 100% in the boot camp, so I'm going to make it into the apprenticeship. It is a selection process through the employer. Still, you go through an interview just like you do with any other job. They will let you know, like, thank you for applying. Here's your interview schedule. We selected you, we rejected you, just like any other job. However, like Matt said, that we will send you your progress over to Infosys. Like, hey, this person is got 95% on these tests and exams. Here's their resume, here's their cover letter, here's their portfolio. Here's their attendance. So all of that information will go to the employer as well, so that they can make an informed decision.
Awesome. Christian, we had another question from someone who asked what happens if they're falling behind. So Taryn provided a great answer, and just the efforts of the program manager, the instructor, right, the coach, all that thing. But this is your realm, so I would love if you just to see if there's anything else you want to ask or want to add on to, like, someone falling behind.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right, Terry. And like, you have the program manager, you have the coaches, you have the instructors to leverage in the program, because it is fast paced. Not everybody gets it on the first try. Some people do fall behind, but I can honestly say that falling behind is not the best way to go, right? If you fall behind 1 week, it's almost like you're falling behind 4 weeks, because it is a fast-paced program with a lot of information that goes into the program. However, you do have support to help you get caught up. We have different monitoring systems. For instance, I'm one of those monitoring systems. So if I notice that you have to maintain an 85% grade average, if I'm noticing that your grade average slips under 85%, or you've missed more than 3 sessions, I'm contacting you. I'm like, hey, what's going on? How can we support you? How can we get you back on track to help you to complete the program? Maybe you can meet up with your coach and figure out a plan on how to get you caught up. Maybe you missed an assignment or an exam that brought you down. Okay, let's open this exam back up for you. Let's get you caught up. And, and then also not just getting you caught up, but how do we keep you and maintain you throughout the rest of the program? So you have a support system in this program. And I think that's one thing besides the instructors that set us apart from other programs, is that you have the ability to leverage me as your program manager and your coach that you're working with and your instructors to help you and support you, because we want to see you succeed in this program.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you. All right. So a question here, how many sessions are they allowed to miss? Christian, do you know that?
Yes, so maintain an 85% grade average, which also includes your attendance. So you are allowed 3 excused absences. If you have unexcused absences, you still need to be within that 85% grade average. So again, that it depends, right? So if you have 3 unexcused absences and then 1 absence that's counted towards you, towards your grade average, that would bring you down, then it's like, oh, I'm contacting you, right? But you're allowed 3 excused absences, and then just anything outside of that, if it affects your grade average, then that's when, we have to pull you aside and talk to you about how do we get you caught back up.
Awesome. So we have a question here. If someone does all right in boot camp, but does not get the job offer for the apprenticeship, can they apply for a job elsewhere? Yeah, if you complete the boot camp and you don't get a job offer, hopefully, I mean, we've seen in some instances, right? The skills that you've earned through the boot camp makes you a good candidate elsewhere. We're going to try, Christian, you can speak to this more too, but we're going to exhaust all of our opportunities to get you employed with one of our partners. And so if that means, some retraining opportunities to put you back up for them for another interview, right? It's in all of our interests. I think this is where we differ pretty substantially from a lot of programs, is that the placements, the you guys getting hired is the thing that our entire model is built on. So we want to do everything possible to help you get that.
Absolutely, everything possible to help you, succeed, right? That's our goal, is your success, whether that's, in this program or at least completing this program so that you can be successful somewhere else as well. So the question, if you don't get hired by Infosys, can you, take these skills that you learn and go apply somewhere else? Absolutely, right? One thing that I tell the learners in the boot camp is that you gain so much in this boot camp. 9 weeks, you're not here for anything. You're gaining a lot of skills, knowledge, and understanding. You've optimized a resume, a cover letter. You've built a portfolio that you're showing off some of the skills that you've learned as well. You get a certificate of completion that you can take with you as well. And then, as Matt has mentioned, if you are doing well and you're maintaining 85% above in a program, but for some reason you're not selected, we would take a second look at that and say, hey, what's going on? This person is maintaining above the grade average. We'll check in with your coach and get feedback from your coach, get feedback from your instructor about your abilities and engagement and understanding. And there's a chance that you could be put up for a second interview with, with some retraining. Like there's like a 3-session retraining that we have scheduled. And if you're eligible for that, we'll put you up for that. Or like Matt said, there may be some other opportunities with other employers that we can explore with you as well. But the goal here is making sure that you're performing in the boot camp with the 85% or higher, showing that you are engaged, you are willing, just something didn't go quite right with this employer, that we can explore other options with you.
Yeah. There was a question here that I think it was more of a comment, which I really appreciate. And I think it's one of the things, Christian, Taryn, that and really the whole team, I think, does really care. I mean, we're all pretty passionate about this. So I think we'll find, certainly if for those that are putting in the work and want to be successful, that we're going to do, as Christian said, everything that we can help that.
I did see a question about, is there anything that you would suggest we do to prepare for the interview? And I want to say, and stay the course of the boot camp. You know, the way it's designed, the coaching portion of the boot camp is designed to help you prepare for the interview along with the instructor-led sessions. So you'll be working in a small group coaching session. And in those coaching sessions, you're optimizing your resume, cover letter, building a portfolio, but you're also going to be doing mock interview where we have like an interview question bank. So like, these are questions that were asked from previous interviews. And, you know, this is what your interview is going to look like, and this is how we prepare you. So you will get all your preparation for the interview in the boot camp. Things that you could be doing on your own is studying the interview question bank, going over the material, making sure that you're asking questions that you don't understand in your instructor class. Again, the point of the boot camp is to prepare you for the interview. So we want to make sure that we give you everything that you need to prepare for the interview inside of the boot camp facilitated led sessions and coaching sessions.
All right. We are, as just a time check here, we've got about 13 minutes here, but I think the questions are slowing down a little bit. As mentioned, these are all amazing. So definitely don't want to keep anyone, but certainly are here to make sure we have your questions answered. There's a question about the Chicago area, the jobs, if it's downtown or in the surrounding areas. I don't know for sure. I want to say, Christian, do you happen to know the Chicago office? I want to say it's West Loop, but it might be farther than that. Don't quote me on that one, unfortunately. I remember looking at it a while ago and seeing, but I want to say it's like the near west side. Sorry, I don't know the answer to that though specifically. So we have a question around the salary range after the apprenticeship is completed. This one I think it can vary. Maybe what I can do is answer this in a couple parts here from some of my experiences that I've seen, primarily a lot of on the digital marketing side. And then Christian, maybe you can provide some insight as well from some of the more technical, the IT program and things like that of what we've seen. So the salary, the range can vary. For what I've seen, it can vary considerably on the marketing side. It has a lot to do with the different specific roles and specializations within that. What we look for afterwards, after that, 12 months is to try to get a promotion, to increase the salary, $10,000, maybe $15,000 is probably what we kind of seen on the digital marketing side, at least. On the IT side, Christian, I'm going to let you, I'll let you kind of handle that one more, but happy to jump in and provide in some other context that I've seen as well.
I would like to, what was the question? I was trying to look for the location in Chicago. What was the question again?
Oh, it was essentially this expected salary after completing the apprenticeship program, or what is a timeline there and sort of the expectations around salary, maybe for like, the IT job, for example.
Yeah, so all of the salary raises, performance evaluation is done internally with the employer, right? So you start off with an apprenticeship with a set salary. That is your salary for the duration of the apprenticeship for the 12 months. After that, I know with Infosys, they do an annual review, performance review with all of their employees. It's normally around March that happens. They literally kind of like shut down everything else that they're doing for like 2 or 3 weeks and do performance evaluations with their employers. And then based on your performance with the employer, so they have an HR department, you go through everything with the employer. So based on your, if you're on a project, working on a project, how well you're doing, your quarterly evaluations throughout the year, all of that performance will determine, if there is a raise or a promotion or a different role that is available to you. It's all done internally with the employer. And as far as like amount, we haven't seen that because again, it's an internal factor with the employer that they don't share with us. And then also the apprentice is, no longer in the apprenticeship, so it's all handled internally with the employer and the now employee of that company.
Yeah, thanks. That's super helpful, Christian. Yeah, I do. We had another question that Taryn just answered, which is perfect. I do want to say that the hope, no promises, but the hope is that we will have be launching a cyber program, maybe end of summer,
July, August.
July, August. That's the hope. I to manage expectations, I expect it to be like probably a smaller group first until we really, it's kind of the trend that we typically have is we'll run a pilot, smaller pilot first, and then a couple cohorts, and then roll it out larger. But it's speculation at this point. Okay. Yeah, we have just a question. If they complete the program and they do well, can you do a different program in the future? Yes, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the scenario in this that you probably would happen, right? It means you completed the boot camp, you did well. For some reason, you didn't get that job offer, and you saw, okay, you know what? It's another program I think I'll be successful in, and you want to go through that one. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we have a question about a specific scheduling. So what I'm going to ask that we can kind of take that offline. If you want to provide, or let me just copy this, copy the name down here. So that way we can look up specific schedules instead of answering them with the whole group here. So yeah, I will we'll follow up with that one separately. There's a question around cyber. Unfortunately, not yet. So as mentioned, probably late summer would be our earliest, but we're hopeful. Okay. We've got about 5 minutes left here, and I'm thinking maybe we have time for one more question if we want to get one or two quick questions in, and then but yeah, if not, we can wrap up and let everyone back to their evenings. Well, as we're waiting to hear a minute, let me just at least say thank you all for joining, for taking the time out of your evenings to come, and hopefully this has been helpful. We've gotten hopefully got some good information, a better understanding of what the program is, and a few of the people behind the the program. Christian being the one that you'd be working with most frequently, and so I'm glad that you all got to see how amazing she is. So I appreciate you guys. Okay, so we do have one last let's see, one last question here. Yeah, so question around the role. If the roles are remote themselves, they're not going with the expectation that they're not going to be, that they will be in person, and that and just as a follow-up in case you missed it earlier, typically there's not relocation assistance either. So if if you are open to roles that are outside of in your direct vicinity where you live, really think carefully about what that would mean, and the relocation, what that would kind of do. And we ask that, if you are doing that, you're able to commit to that later down the line when they say, okay, great, we want you to work, but it's in Atlanta, and you live in, I don't know, Illinois, wherever, Texas, yeah, anywhere. Awesome. Well, thank you all again so much. Really appreciate it. I think, let me send my email in chat for everyone. So you have that, and then I'm also gonna send in our admissions email. Our admissions email as well. We have now a group of people who are monitoring that inbox and trying to get responses as fast as possible. So if you've emailed before and it took a minute, we really appreciate your patience there. But we are, I think, undug. We made it through we made it through everything today. So big internal accomplishment for us, and hopefully that means that we'll just be able to get back to you a lot faster than we have been earlier, the last several weeks. Thank you again. Again, Christian, Taryn, thank you for joining. This has been amazing. Everyone have a great night, and I look forward to talking again soon.
All right, good night, everybody.